Okay, so Bitcoin, huh? Could it really hit
It's
$146,000?
a big number, that's for sure.
Huge. I mean, is that even possible?
Well, there's some interesting analysis out there. One blockchain analytics firm thinks it could happen.
Really? What makes them think that?
They're looking at some pretty unique metrics to back up their prediction, going beyond just the usual, hype and speculation.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
One of the key metrics they're using is this thing called realized price.
Realized price. I'm not sure I'm familiar with that. What is it exactly?
So basically, it's the average price at which each Bitcoin was last bought or sold.
Okay, so it's like a snapshot of what investors have actually paid for their Bitcoin, not just the price it's trading at right now.
Exactly. It's like, a more grounded way of looking at the market based on actual behavior, not just theoretical prices.
That makes sense. So how does this realized price tie into their $146,000 prediction?
Well, historically, when Bitcoin's price has gotten close to its realized price, it's often signaled a market top. In previous cycles, I mean.
Interesting. So they're using past patterns to try and figure out where the market might be headed.
Yeah, exactly. And guess what? Right now, the realized price is hovering around.
Yeah.
Yep, $146,000.
Wow. Okay, so there's some actual data behind this prediction. It's not just a random number they pulled out of thin air.
No, not at all. But there's even more to their analysis. They're not just looking at this realized price thing, they're also factoring in the behavior of new investors.
Right, because new investors coming into the market can really shake things up, can't they?
For sure. Historically, when you see a lot of new investors jumping in and buying Bitcoin at high prices, it's often a sign that the market's about to turn.
Kind of like a classic buy high, sell low situation, but on a massive scale.
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. They're not seeing that same kind of frenzy from new investors right now.
So does that mean there's still room for Bitcoin to grow before we hit the peak? Is that what they're thinking?
It's a possibility. We haven't reached that point where everyone and their grandma is suddenly a Bitcoin expert. And historically, those kind of frenzies have often happened right before the market peaks.
Right, that moment when Bitcoin is all over the news and everyone's trying to get in on the action. I don't feel like we're quite there yet.
Yeah, I agree. And that lack of crazy buying could be another sign that we haven't hit the peak just yet, but...
There's always a but with crypto, isn't there?
Pretty much, yeah. They are suggesting there could be some short-term volatility on the horizon. A little note of caution.
Okay. What makes them think that?
They're looking closely at MicroStrategy, specifically its stock price compared to its Bitcoin holdings. Things are looking a little overheated there.
Overheated, what does that mean exactly?
So MicroStrategy is this company that owns a ton of Bitcoin. And basically, when its stock price is rising a lot faster than the price of Bitcoin, it can be a sign that things are getting a little out of whack.
So it's like a warning sign. If MicroStrategy stock starts to wobble, it could mean trouble for Bitcoin's price too.
It could, yeah. It suggests there might be a bit of a price correction coming. Not necessarily a full-blown crash, but maybe a pullback of some sort.
Okay, so even though they think Bitcoin could eventually hit $146,000, they're saying there might be some bumps along the way.
Yeah, that seems to be their takeaway so far. The big picture looks pretty promising, but we gotta be prepared for some ups and downs in the short term. That's crypto for you.
That's crypto, all right. Never a dull moment. It's true, though, the crypto market's not exactly a closed system.
Not at all. It's connected to, well, pretty much everything else that's happening in the world. The global economy, geopolitics even.
Right, like what happens if there's, say, a sudden spike in inflation or a conflict somewhere in the world? Stuff that might not seem directly related to Bitcoin.
Exactly. Those things can have a ripple effect across all markets, crypto included. It's like, who could have predicted the pandemic and how that shook everything up? Or the energy crisis, remember that? Huge impact on crypto.
Big time. So how do we even factor that kind of stuff in? It seems almost impossible to predict.
It's tough, that's for sure. I think the best thing you can do is just stay informed, pay attention to what's happening in the world, outside of just crypto, read the news, keep up on global economic trends.
So don't live in a Bitcoin bubble, basically.
Precisely. The more you understand all the forces at play, the better decisions you'll be able to make. Speaking of decisions, remember that short-term volatility we were talking about earlier?
And MicroStrategy thing.
Yeah. It's got some people worried.
Should we be panicking?
Nah. I mean, short-term price swings are totally normal with crypto. Volatility is just part of the game,
So trying to time the market based on every little blip is probably not the smartest move.
Probably not, no. Instead of trying to catch every peak and valley, you're better off focusing on those long-term fundamentals. If you really believe in the technology and its potential, then these short-term blips shouldn't derail your overall strategy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Easy to get caught up in the day-to-day drama, but sometimes you got to zoom out and look at the big picture.
Exactly. Bitcoin has been through a lot in its time, and it's always come out on top.
It has, that's true. It sounds like you're still pretty optimistic about its future, even with all the uncertainty.
I am, yeah. The technology is solid, and I think adoption will only continue to grow. Plus, there's that amazing community of developers and users who are constantly working to improve things.
Yeah, that community aspect is really something special.
Totally agree. Okay, so we've covered historical trends, global events, the importance of, not freaking out over every little dip. Oh, but there's one more thing I think we should touch on.
Okay, lay it on me.
Regulation.
Ah, yes. The big R word.
Governments are still figuring out what to do with crypto, and whatever they decide is going to have a huge impact on the market.
It's another layer of uncertainty for sure.
It is, yeah. It's complicated, and it's constantly changing.
So how do we navigate that?
Well, first thing to remember is that crypto regulations are different all over the world. What's allowed in one country might be totally banned in another. And the rules are still being written, so it's super important to stay up to date.
Sounds like a good reason to do your research.
Absolutely. Don't just assume that what applies in your country applies everywhere. If you're investing in crypto, be aware of the regulations wherever you're holding your assets.
That's good advice. Anything else we can do to manage this, regulatory uncertainty?
Diversification is always a smart move.
Right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Classic wisdom.
Exactly. Spread your investments around, not just within crypto, but across different types of assets. That way, if one area takes a hit, you're not totally wiped out.
Makes sense. So if something happens with crypto regulations, you've got other investments to help cushion the blow.
Yep. And within your crypto portfolio, it's a good idea to diversify your holdings across different coins and tokens too. Don't just bet on Bitcoin, even though it is, the biggest and most established.
So even within the crypto world, spreading your bets can help manage risk.
Absolutely. And maybe the most important thing of all is to have a long-term mindset. Don't panic over every little bump in the road. There will be ups and downs. But if you believe in the potential of this space, you can ride it out and come out ahead in the long run.
It's like they say, it's about time in the market, not timing the market.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about historical trends, global events, volatility, regulation. It's a lot to digest.
It is, for sure. But hopefully we've given our listeners some food for thought. It's a fascinating world and it's constantly changing. But, with a little bit of knowledge and a lot of critical thinking, I think anybody can navigate this space successfully.
It's funny, with all this talk about historical trends and global events and regulations, it's like trying to predict where Bitcoin's going to go.
Yeah.
It's kind of like predicting the weather, right?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of factors at play.
A lot. It's definitely complex, but, that's part of what makes it so interesting.
It is, that unpredictability,
For sure.
Yeah.
But it can also be a little intimidating, especially for people who are, just getting started with crypto.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's easy to get swept up in all the hype and think, I'm going to miss out if I don't get in now.
It's that FOMO, right?
The FOMO, fear of missing out. It's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
But it can also lead to some maybe not so great decisions.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with something as volatile as, crypto.
Totally. So for someone who's, just starting out, what would you recommend? Like, where do they even begin?
Well, I think the first thing is education. Just taking some time to learn the basics.
Like, what are some of those key things people should be learning about?
Well, what is blockchain technology? How do cryptocurrencies actually work? What are the different types of crypto assets out there?
Right. The different types, because there's more than just Bitcoin, obviously.
Oh, tons. And there are so many resources available now. Articles, videos, even whole courses. You don't need to become a technical whiz overnight, but having a solid grasp of the fundamentals is just essential, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And, the good thing is the crypto community is so strong. Like, people are generally pretty happy to help out newcomers.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the great things about it. It's very welcoming.
For sure. So once you've got, a basic understanding, then what?
Then you can start thinking about, your investment goals. What are you hoping to achieve with crypto?
Yeah. Are you looking for short-term gains, long-term growth?
Mm-hmm.
How much risk are you comfortable taking?
Right. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here. Your strategy should be based on your own, individual circumstances and goals.
That makes sense.
And once you've got a clear strategy, you can start researching specific crypto assets that align with that strategy.
And then, of course, diversification. We've talked about that. Can't emphasize it enough.
Yeah, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Spread your investments around.
Within crypto and even outside of crypto, consider other types of assets to balance your portfolio.
So if one market takes a hit, you're not, like, completely exposed.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about like volatility, uncertainty, regulation,
Yeah, a lot of the challenges.
the challenges, yeah. But I'm curious, overall, are you optimistic about Bitcoin's future?
Well, I think it has huge potential, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it could really revolutionize the way we think about money and finance. It's still early days, though, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're still in the early innings. There will be bumps along the way.
Volatility, regulation, new technologies coming out.
Yep, all of that. But Bitcoin has, shown itself to be pretty resilient so far.
It's come through a lot already.
Exactly. So I would say I'm cautiously optimistic. Be smart, do your research, but don't be afraid to dive in. It's exciting to be a part of this.
Yeah, it is. Okay, well, that's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And a big thanks to you, our listener, for being here with us on this deep dive into the world of Bitcoin.
And crypto in general, yeah.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.